Ertharin Cousin, welcome to the 12th Forum for the Future of Agriculture, where you have just opened the programme with a keynote address. Now, you have been the UN World Food Programme Director up until 2017. I know that with the WFP you fed 80 million in 75 countries every year. So food, and particularly nutrition, is very much on your agenda. But you had several messages for the forum this morning. Could you quickly tell me the most important ones that you were giving to the forum today?
Yes, the most important messages that I delivered today was that we must work in partnership, that no one organization, no one country investing can create the systematic change that is required to ensure that young people, the next generation, have access to the agricultural opportunities, whether on farm or off farm, that will ensure that we can feed a growing population. Also, that we needed context-specific policies to support the enabling environment to create market-based opportunities for new businesses that will support the need for us to change our food system. And finally, that we need more investment. We need more private sector investment in agriculture to ensure that the good ideas, the good programs, the good pilots out there, that we can scale them up to support 500 million smallholder farmers, that we can provide opportunities for new agribusiness opportunities for young people.
Now, the forum is where agriculture meets the environment and comes to talk every year. Talking is important, your messages are important, hearing what other people say in the forum is important, but ultimately you were talking today about not just what to do, but how to act. And the new generation, the next generation, is very much about that.
Yes.
And you know, you had some questions in the forum, things like, I'm young, I am in farming, I find it exciting, I have new ideas, but I need capital to make them happen. I think you mentioned the messy middle of, great ideas and getting them into the system and making them work. It is tough. You would have a real call to action there.
The call to action is that we need action. That
we need more money.
We need more
in the right places.
We need more money. We need to move beyond talking about what we need to do. We need to move beyond suggesting what the private sector needs to do, to bringing the private sector in, bringing those capital managers, those investment fund managers into these conversations with their checkbooks in hand, prepared to make the investments that are required.
We have one of the elements today will be about financing sustainability. We will have bankers in the room. I'm not sure if they brought their checkbooks, but I know that you've been in Nairobi recently, for example, and you had, you said there were investors in the room listening to where the gaps in funding were. Do you see action?
Well, we actually saw a couple of those young people get funding for their project. It was pretty exciting. It was, and they were very aggressive about not just positioning their products, their businesses, but about talking to those funders with a business plan that showed the opportunity for return. And we all recognize that private sector capital must have returns. There are returns available in the agriculture sector. For too long, this sector has been ignored as too risky. But there is the ability for patient, smart capital to recognize that if they invest for the long term, that they can receive the returns that returns from their dollars invested.
And in your expert view, and you go around the world and you have great experience in Africa of just getting a sense check for us, if you will, of thinking that is that sense that banks are, yes, they want to return, you're right, but that there is a need. The planet, we're in a race against climate change. These are some of the important issues that we discuss, but that investment banks, they have these ESG kind of ideals now, that's really starting to bear fruit for those smallholders, those that have a smaller voice, that are more vulnerable. Are you seeing a sense of change that actually we need to do this, yes, with a bit of profit, but actually because we need to save the planet?
I love the T-shirt I saw on a young person, and young people are giving voice to many of these issues that said there is no planet B. The investors are beginning to realize that. I talked to one investor who said that 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, they would not have had a conversation with someone like me about what is possible. But they recognize that they too can be affected, no matter how much money you have, if we don't address the challenges of creating a food system that supports planetary health as well as human health. And so you're absolutely right that we are seeing those investors recognizing that yes, there is return, but there's also value in investing in a different way to support the climate and to support the sustainability.
So, final question then, Ertharin. You have been quoted as talking very much about empathy and finding commonality, particularly in those that are vulnerable, because they are also strong. So, do you see that coming now? That actually there is a partnership, more trust coming, that we are meeting together, and that finding empathy and commonality between the big corporates, the big banks, the big agrochemical companies, and all of those stakeholders in between, right down to those with the small ideas that need the money, that's starting to come through.
Very much so. We are beginning to see a change in how investors are looking at the commonality that we share as a global community, recognizing that there is no monolith in the developing world. There are some places that will still require aid, that still, because of lack of governance, of good governance, lack of enabling environment, that there's not ripe yet for private market capital. But there are other places across South Asia, across Africa, across Latin America, even in some rural communities here in Europe and in the United States that are not receiving funding today, that there's an opportunity for capital to invest and to see return.
You told the conference that progress is a bit too slow, a bit too uneven, but ultimately, very briefly, you do sound optimistic.
I am optimistic. I'm optimistic because, as I said, I have people talking to me who ignored me 10 years ago, because they now see that there is synergy between markets, capital, and addressing the challenges that will ensure that we all universally have access to nutritious food.
Ertharin Cousin, thank you so much for talking to us. Enjoy the forum today.
Thank you.